Hello, I'm still not Corey, and I'm still surprised by people's reaction to vaccines. So I was scrolling through Twitter, as you do, and I saw a very interesting article that I had to share it with you. Before we get into the article, don't forget to like and please subscribe. It very much helps. And also comment down below whether you have been vaccinated or not and which vaccine you got. I'm interested to know. It's my own research. I'm doing it. So this article is from Breitbart, and if you don't know what that is, you're very lucky. It's a far-right news network, and I use the word news very, very liberally. Anyway, this article is about vaccines. It was written by John Nolte, and the title is Howard Stern Proves Democrats Want Unvaccinated Trump Voters Dead. Great start. So it says, do you want to know why I think Howard Stern is going full monster with his mockery of 3 fellow human beings who died of the coronavirus? If you don't know what happened with Howard Stern, I'm pretty sure it was a case of him making some jokes about 3 people who died of COVID after they were sort of anti-vax COVID hoax, you know, spreading that sort of stuff on the radio. So he made some jokes about that. So it's not necessarily just, haha, these people died. It's a case of these people were saying this is a hoax or, you know, spreading misinformation. And then they died from the thing that they were spreading misinformation about. It's a little ironic. Ironic, right? That you would say, this isn't happening. Oh no, it happens to me. That seemed to be kind of the vibe, more than just simply, haha, yes, get rid of these right-wing people. It doesn't feel even right to do that. I can't, my heart isn't in it there, you know? Because leftists like Stern and CNN LOL and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Anthony Fauci are deliberately looking to manipulate Trump voters into not getting vaccinated. That's right, folks. By telling people to get vaccinated, they're actually manipulating Trump voters into not getting vaccinated. Why? Why are we doing that? Why are us leftists manipulating Trump voters into not getting vaccines? Well, in a country where elections are decided on razor-thin margins, does it not benefit one side if their opponents simply drop dead? You know what? I can't fault this. That is a solid motive. If you want to win elections, simply engineer a way for your opponents to die or to be disenfranchised. I wonder who does that. I wonder what population tends to vote for which party, and which other party specifically tries to disenfranchise that population. So I know what you're asking. How are leftists manipulating Trump voters into not getting the vaccine? Are they giving out misinformation? Are they withholding the correct information? Or are they maybe making mandates based on things that are directly related to Trump voters so that Trump voters can't get the vaccine? You can't get the vaccine if you're XYZ, and it just so happens that XYZ correlates exactly to Trump voters. No, they're in fact doing more or less the opposite of all of that. They're trying to give out the most correct information that they have access to. They're trying to give it out to everyone equally. And they're also making mandates so that everyone should really have to get the vaccine. Unless, of course, they're medically exempt. So how does this mean that Trump voters are being manipulated into not getting vaccines? It's very interesting and absolutely hilarious. Nothing gets past John Nolte. He has figured us out. He is onto us. If I wanted to use reverse psychology to convince people not to get a life-saving vaccination, I would do exactly what Stern and the left are doing. I would bully and taunt and mock and ridicule you for not getting vaccinated, knowing the human response would be, hey, f*** you, I'm never getting vaccinated. I love that. I love that he says the human response is, hey, f*** you, I'm never getting vaccinated. You can say that people are being bullied and mocked and taunted, and I wouldn't disagree with you, but I don't think that comes from a place of trying to use reverse psychology. I think some people just think it's really funny the way that anti-vaxxers act. The fact that anti-vaxxers say things that fly in the face of evidence, will twist things and misuse points and be told this is objectively wrong, being shown evidence to prove this is objectively wrong, and then they'll just pivot and act like it never happened. That is inherently just a funny thing to watch. It is funny to watch someone grasp at straws and hate something with a passion despite having no evidence to back that up, you know? That is a very funny thing to see. I don't think it's a case of everyone being in on it and trying to use reverse psychology to stop people they don't like from getting the vaccine. What kind of cope is this? We were wrong about the vaccine being bad, so like, actually it's the left that was tricking us into not getting the vaccine. They knew that we wouldn't want to get it if they told us to, and they used that to their advantage. What if the left had said, don't get the vaccine? Hey, everyone on the left get the vaccine, but everyone else don't. Would you have gotten it then? Like, are you a child? Do you base all of your decisions entirely on what someone tells you not to do? Is that exactly what you go ahead and do? I don't think it's the human response to be faced with a situation where someone says, hey, you need to take this thing to protect yourself and everyone else. Here's all the evidence for it being safe. Go ahead and do it. And you say, I don't want to do it because I don't think it's safe and I don't want to. My body, my choice. Doesn't matter. I don't understand what I'm talking about at all. It's so childish. It's so funny. And why is that a perfectly human response? Because no one ever wants to feel like they're being bullied or ridiculed or mocked or pushed into doing anything. This is a really broad thing here, isn't it? Bullied, mocked, ridiculed, and pushed. No one wants to feel like they're being pushed into doing anything, but if something is for your own well-being and you're resistant to it, you're probably going to be pushed into it by someone. I don't think it's fair to say, oh, it's a perfectly human response to resist that. Sure, I guess it is a response to resist it, but you can overcome that, right? It's not a neutral thing. Being stubborn and resistant to all change, that is, I guess, somewhat innately human, but it's also something that we view as being not great qualities in a person. If you are willing to stand up and fight against something simply because someone has told you what to do, whether or not that thing is good for you or bad for you, like that is ridiculous, right? If you are so willing to just go against anything because it's come from an outside source, that is a really awful way to live your life. That's not something I would be putting on someone else and saying it's the left's fault. They have utilized my flaws as a person. They know that I'm a flawed person and I can't help but fight anyone that tells me what to do. And they've used that to their advantage. People were told like gently, like, hey, like vaccines are good, you should get the vaccine. And people were resistant against it. And it's like, well, here's the evidence. No, I don't want that evidence. Well, here's some more evidence. No, I don't want that evidence. What do you do? It seems like a catch-22 here. It seems like there's nothing that you can do here to win. Either you don't try hard enough to get life-saving vaccines to people, or you do try hard enough, but actually you're just trying to use reverse psychology because you know those people don't want to get it because you're telling them to get it. What do you do? Just tell some people don't get it and hope that they get it out of spite? Perfect job on Breitbart's part here by tricking right-wing anti-vaxxers into getting the vaccine by telling them that it's actually the left's fault that they don't want to get the vaccine. It's so hilarious. It's like trying to trick a kid into going to bed on time. It's like dealing with children. It's so funny. The fact that you would say this about the people that you align yourself with, that they're so emotional and stubborn and illogical that they would literally rather die than be told what to do. Whether or not that thing that they're being told to do is good for them. I've been told I should probably eat healthily and exercise. No, I'm going to eat only junk food and I'm never going to walk again in my life. It's so funny to me that you're bending over backwards to pin the blame on the left when there are people on the right who were explicitly spreading anti-vax messaging, who were like explicitly spreading misinformation on vaccines, who were like encouraging people to not get the vaccine. Why is it the left's fault when the right said don't get it? What? Who wants to cave to a piece of shit like Howard Stern or Jimmy Kimmel or these repulsive doctors refusing to treat the unvaccinated or Bette Midler or? Who wants to feel like they're caving to a guy who's such a piece of shit, publicly mocks people who have died? He's not just a piece of shit mocking them, he's a piece of shit hurting the families these dead men have left behind. Bro, if you're gonna spread anti-vax nonsense and misinformation around COVID and then you die from COVID, I don't think it's a horrible thing to point out the irony of that. Right? Like, I don't think it's that awful a thing. You might be wondering why things look different right now. It's because I took a break for lunch and then had a nap. And the nap lasted a long time. The article goes on to say, no one wants to cave to a piece of shit like that, or a scumbag like Fauci, or any of these scumbags at CNN, LOL. So we don't. And what's the result? They're all vaccinated, and we're not. And when you look at the numbers, the only numbers that matter, which is who's dying, not true, not the only numbers that matter, but we'll move on. It's overwhelmingly the unvaccinated who are dying, and they just have manipulated millions of their political enemies into the unvaccinated camp. No, it wasn't the vaccinated that manipulated the unvaccinated to, it wasn't that happened. It was the right-leaning media that said, don't get a vaccine, you don't need it, it might be dangerous, that cast doubt upon it. And the left were saying, hey, get a vaccine, do that. Every single time that I've said, hey, get a vaccine, it wasn't to make people not want to get vaccines. We're not playing 4D chess here, it's very simple. I say get a vaccine is because I want you to get a vaccine. You've not been outsmarted by some masterful game. You were just being stupid. This article is hilarious to me because instead of admitting that the unvaccinated, anti-vaxxers were wrong, or even people pushing that sort of anti-vax nonsense were wrong, it turns around and says, actually, the people that were giving the correct information were wrong because they were trying to do it in order to trick the unvaccinated into remaining unvaccinated. No, man. You can't say, oh, the only reason the right is failing here is because the left made them. It doesn't work that way. Not everything is someone else's fault. Take responsibility, right? It's so funny that this idea has just been invented so that some people don't have to take responsibility for their own stupid actions. But it is true, the unvaccinated are the ones that are mostly dying. And like I said, this is a really, really, really good way. While it's absolutely bad, it's a great way to get unvaccinated people to get vaccinated because they don't want to feel like they were wrong, and this is a nice little way for them to feel like they're right and still owning the libs by getting a vaccine. First it was own the libs, don't get a vaccine, put everyone's health at risk, and now it's own the libs, get a vaccine, because while they've said that they want you to get one, they don't really want you to get one, and you're owning them by getting one. Mental. Really, absolutely mental. The article goes on to say, according to the CDC, 99.5% of those dying of coronavirus, not gonna call it that, are unvaccinated. So even if they're lying or exaggerating, even if it's 75 or 80%, those numbers are pretty stark. I love this. It's a case of like, oh, we were wrong. Like my side was wrong on this, but the complete inability to admit that is hilarious. Still gonna call it not coronavirus, which is what we're all calling it. Gonna give it that, honestly, admittedly, pretty racist name. And also gonna still cast doubt on the CDC, recognizing we should maybe trust the CDC on this, because they said 99.5. But even if they're lying, they can't be lying that much. Why are you assuming that the CDC are why are you assuming that they're lying? Why? I feel like that is just being said so that the people that, have been fed all this bullshit about, oh, don't trust the CDC, don't trust it, don't trust that, are going to be able to listen to this without immediately turning it off. Don't get me wrong. This is hilarious to read, but it is so perfectly constructed to make these right-wing people actually get a vaccine. It's like it's been perfectly tuned and specifically made to trick people who are right-wing and are refusing to get the vaccine because it's become a partisan issue into getting the vaccine. It's amazing. Every little bit of it is just so perfect. Mwah. Mwah, so good. Mwah. And honestly, I can't complain too much. I'm sitting here laughing at this because it is objectively funny, but I do recognize that if it's going to get people vaccinated, sure, I can't be too against it. I genuinely can't hate this article at all, really, because if it's getting people vaccinated, fine. If what it takes for these people to get vaccinated is to make them feel like they're at the center of some conspiracy for them to not get vaccinated, then fine. That's fine. I don't mind, It's like telling kids that Santa Claus exists, so they'll be good. It's so funny to me that this is the group of people that call other people snowflakes, that say that other people need to be coddled, that they're not ready for the real world. And yet they need to be told that the reason they didn't get a vaccine, it's not their fault. They were tricked into not getting one by the all-powerful left. This article is doing my job for me, man. There's almost nothing I can add. It's just perfect. I just want to do a reading for you. Could it possibly be that the left has manipulated huge swaths of Trump voters into believing that they're owning the left by not taking the life-saving Trump vaccine? No, they did that themselves. The Trump voters did that themselves. If you make your health decisions based on what will own a political party you don't like, then you should probably not be making your own health decisions, let's be real. The article actually quotes another article which has a quote of what Howard Stern said. Longtime radio host and media personality Howard Stern laughed as he mocked a string of right-wing radio hosts who died of COVID after publicly stating their opposition to forced vaccine and mask mandates. On Tuesday's edition of SiriusXM's The Howard Stern Show, the host took pleasure in mocking several late radio hosts with whom he disagreed as he made the case for a mandatory vaccination program. It's really funny when the radio guys are the best. They're 4 of them died. 4 of them were ranting on air, he cackled. Again, it doesn't seem like he was specifically making fun of the fact that these people died, and more the fact that they were ranting on air to their audience against COVID safety protocols, about how they don't like the COVID safety protocols, and then died of COVID likely due to their desire to not follow COVID safety protocols. In this case, honestly, like, I don't think that, you need to have respect for the dead inherently. I think if someone did some crappy stuff on their life and then they died, you can make fun of them. You can make fun of them after they're dead. That's totally fine. And in this case, where people literally put other people's lives at risk by spreading misinformation to their audiences, I think it's definitely ironic that they died from that very thing themselves. And if you're gonna make jokes about that, I think that's fine. I wouldn't personally go about doing jokes like that. I don't really want to. But I can understand making those jokes. I don't think it's a terrible thing to do that. And you could say, oh, it's disrespectful, but ultimately, dying doesn't mean you deserve respect. I'm sorry. Everybody dies. In death, not everyone deserves respect. Dying is a terrifically easy thing to do. You could say have respect for the family or whatever, and that's a decent argument, I guess, but ultimately, in my mind, if someone dies in part through consequences of their own harmful actions to other people, it's fine to point that out. It's fine to have a little bit of a laugh about that, because you did a bad thing, and a bad thing happened to you almost as a direct result of the bad thing that you did. Obviously, it's sad that they died, but I don't think that sympathy for the family means that you can't talk about bad things someone did in their life. The article then goes on to say, have you ever thought that maybe the left has us right where they want us? Just stand back for a moment and think about this. Right now, a countless number of Trump supporters believe they are owning the left by refusing to take a life-saving vaccine. A vaccine, by the way, everyone on the left has taken. Oh, and so is Trump. This is great. Like I said, it's been perfectly constructed to trick right-wing Trump voters into getting the vaccine, which is ultimately a good thing. What I'm laughing at here is that this is how you've got to do it. It's like, oh no, you won't eat your vegetables? Here comes the airplane. Now think about this. On this very day, about 1,000 people in the US will die of coronavirus. How many of those lives could have been saved if they'd been vaccinated? Is it 998? Is it 778? Is it 229? Does it matter? And if the left is all vaccinated and we're not, who's winning? It's funny that you're making this about winning. This isn't about winning necessarily, as in like little in-groups winning. It's about everyone winning, right? Like if everyone gets the vaccine, everyone wins. There you go. Everyone's safer. Good for us. It doesn't need to be a case of left, right, sort of like, if we don't get the vaccine, then the left will win. That's what got you into this mess in the first place, isn't it? Thinking like, oh, if we get the vaccine, like the left told us to, the left will win. The left will have beaten us in the marketplace of ideas. We can't get the vaccine. And now it's, if the left are getting the vaccine and we die for not getting the vaccine, then the left will win. Just stop thinking about winning for a second and maybe just think about your health. And think about everyone's health in a slightly more rational way than who beats who, Oh my god. This is just so interesting to see the different mindsets that people have. Honestly, winning political points wasn't really on my mind at all when I got the vaccine. Just, it wasn't there. Wasn't in the list of things that was going through my mind. I was thinking more, hey, this will protect me and other people. And that's probably a good thing. That's it. That's more or less my reasoning for getting the vaccine. Owning conservatives or like, making myself a better leftist was not... It wasn't really on the table there. The push for mandates is another ploy to get us to dig in and not do what's best for ourselves because no one wants to feel like they're caving to a mandate. Yeah, just like, seatbelts. We don't want people to wear seatbelts. We don't want right-wingers to wear seatbelts. That's why we have seatbelt mandates. That's what all mandates exist, solely to stop right-wing people from doing it. Because, of course, they're not going to want to. They're not going to cave to a mandate. Gosh, no. This is hilarious. This is genuinely my favorite part of the article because you need to suspend disbelief so much. You just need to leave all thoughts at the door. Take your brain out, put it away for a second, and then read it, and it'll maybe make sense to you. Seriously, how anyone can think that vaccine mandates, the purpose of them, is to stop people from getting vaccines. That is hilarious to me. It's so funny to me because obviously vaccine mandates are coming out because some people just don't want to get vaccines. The idea that without a vaccine mandate, more people would be choosing to get vaccines because they wouldn't feel like they're being told to, that doesn't seem right. If you didn't get it up until this point, then were you ever really going to get it? When you're writing that, you must think, this is crazy, right? I must be a little bit crazy. I can't imagine writing that down and not thinking to yourself, maybe I've gone too far. Final note, how many of you were aware that the CDC believes that 99.5% of those dying are unvaccinated? I bet not many of you. So why would the metric that is the most convincing one not be all over the place? Once you learn that 99.5% of deaths are unvaccinated, it cuts through all the muck. That number is startling, an eye-opener. Forget cases, forget mandates, forget masks and Howard Stern. When you learn that almost everyone dying is unvaccinated, that's a come-to-Jesus moment. I could be wrong. Maybe the left isn't that evil and sly. But when I think of the unvaccinated lying there dying, being told by their doctor, sorry, there's nothing more we can do to get enough oxygen to your lungs, I don't laugh. My heart breaks for that person. Imagine lying there dying thinking that all you had to do was get the Trump vaccine. Even if this isn't the left's plan. Who's owning who? This is someone who presumably voted for Trump that thinks that Trump voters need to have their hands held so much that you need to tell them, no, you should get the Trump vaccine because if you're not getting it, isn't owning the left. Getting it is actually owning the left now. Get the vaccine to own the left. It's as though telling people that getting the vaccine is better for their health isn't enough. They need to feel like they're owning the libs to do it. For the people that proclaim to be about facts and logic, the fact that their emotions determine their health decisions so much is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And you know what? Yeah, it's not funny to think of victims dying because the people that they put their trust in lied to them, spread misinformation to them, told them they'd be better off without a vaccine, cast doubt on vaccines. These guys are victims not of the left, but of the people on the right who were explicitly spreading anti-vax or vaccine hesitancy messages. This is not the fault of leftists here. This is not the fault of people who are saying to get vaccines. The people that are not getting vaccines because the left told them to, it isn't the left's fault for that. It genuinely is not. I do want to talk about the 99.5% number because if you go to Google, type in COVID, 99.5% unvaccinated, go to news, click search, you will find articles that were talking about it back when this report came out. People were talking about it. Where this narrative that no one was mentioning the 99.5% number has come from is news to me. Like, maybe it wasn't in the right-wing media, maybe Breitbart didn't report on it. It was being reported by pretty much everyone. Everywhere was reporting this 99.5% number from the CDC. So trying to say, oh, you haven't heard about it. How familiar are you with it? It's the left. They failed to get it. No, they've not failed to get it out. It was out there. But there's also a lot of misinformation that is drowning it out. You say the 99.5 will cut through the muck. It won't if people don't trust the CDC. It won't if people think that those vaccine numbers are a lie. It won't if people want to believe that being unvaccinated is about as safe as being vaccinated, and so they're going to latch on to numbers that show that. You can't say that this 99.5% number has been hidden from people, because it hasn't. The issue with these vaccines, the issue with what's going on here, is not that the left is hiding information from people, is not that leftists are giving out this advice to get vaccines in order to trick Trump voters into not getting vaccines. It's just the fact that people on the right have turned it into a partisan issue and have said, hey, don't get the vaccine. Don't get the vaccine and you'll own the libs. And people bought that. Like, people actually think not getting a vaccine will own the libs. People are actually thinking that it is better to not get a vaccine. And now, someone that actually is on the right and realizes, oh yeah, vaccines are good. Here's a good way to trick people into getting them. They're doing that. That is simply what this article is. It is tricking people on the right into getting vaccines by making them feel like they weren't wrong and they were smart. They were just outsmarted by some conspiracy. That is baffling to me, that people cannot admit that they were wrong about something. Like, someone on the right even recognizes these people cannot admit that they are wrong. We need to make them feel smart for being wrong. That's what this is here, making people still feel smart even though they were wrong. And obviously you want to give people some level of respect regardless of whether or not they agree with you, but it is so hard to respect the people that would read this article and think, yeah, this is right. The left did trick me into not getting a vaccine, so now I'm going to get one. These are genuine political opponents. That is absolutely baffling. I cannot believe that there are adults out there, adults making health decisions for themselves and their families that are based on what will own a political party that they don't like. That is just insane. I've made a lot of jokes about this article in this video, but ultimately, if that's what it takes to get people vaccinated, fine. If people are only going to get vaccinated to own the libs, let them get vaccinated just to own the libs. I don't care at this point. Honestly, we can deal with the repercussions of that line of thinking later. Let's just get people vaccinated for whatever reason makes them feel good about getting vaccinated. I can't care at this point. I genuinely can't. It feels like you're up against children. This is what a Trump supporter is saying to other Trump supporters. Like, coddling them like children, handling them like children, tricking them into doing something that's in their own self-interest by making them feel like they're doing it to one-up someone else. It's just really childish. It's insane to me. It is insane to me. I don't know what else I can say. I think that's it. My brain is fried and I am done. On the bright side, I guess we now know how to get Trump voters to do anything we want. Just tell them to do the opposite. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to join my Patreon, you can. The link is down in the description. Here are all my patrons here. Aren't they lovely? Look at all of their names going by. They're all so nice. You can also follow my Twitter, my Instagram, my TikTok, all the other stuff down in the description. Also my second channel. No, this is my second channel. My main channel, you can subscribe to that. I live stream there every week. Usually, I've got other things. I've got a podcast. You can follow my podcast, link in the description. All the links are in the description. If you want to know what I'm doing, the links are down there. That's all. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment telling me if you got a vaccine and what vaccine you got, I think. Is that everything? No! Thank you very much to all of my patrons, as I've said, but a very special thank you to Renegade and Sarah. If you would like to be thanked at the end of my videos, simply go to my Patreon at patreon.com/notcorry and sign up. That is all, I think. Goodbye.